Good afternoon, all. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching and listening to the Sal Greco Show. So if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, the notification button. Also, if you are watching us right now live on X, thank you for that. Please hit the repost button, share that out to all your friends, your family, anyone who wants to hear about the real news and wants to get out of that low information bubble. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. It's been an eventful couple of days. At the very end of this show, I will show you a little video of my time in Miami, my 24 hours in Miami. That'll be at the very end. But of course, to start off things, we got to talk about highlight, right? It's been a long season. We're still going through this season here. So yesterday, the second place team, the Renegades, played the last place team, the Cyclones. And, lo and behold, all they had to do was, I think, tie to confirm a playoff spot. Of course, the Renegades lost. So now the Cyclones, they still alive, I believe, for the playoffs. But the Renegades lost 4-2 today at 5 p.m. on highlightworld.com/battle court. You can look that up too if you want on there, or go to YouTube and the Highlight League Network or ESPN3 at 5 p.m. The Devils, the third place team, will be playing the, I believe, fifth place team or sixth place team. So it's going to be quite an end of the season. The Chargers will be playing Friday night, which is my team. And it's a must-win. They're playing the first-place team, which is the Fireballs. If we win, we set up the whole playoffs, 1-4. If we don't win, this goes on to the final game, which would be the Warriors. I believe the Devils and the Warriors are playing today. The Warriors are right behind the Chargers. So in the standings, you'd see that. It's reflecting of that. I believe the top-place team, the Fireballs, pretty much clinched first place. There's 2 more weeks left, so we'll see what happens there. It's just it's a little bit entertainment, of course. Highlight, a lot of people are talking about it as a buzz in Miami, South Florida, and trying to build the sport up. But if you can, highlightworld.com/battle court. You can check out all the info there. There, the standings. So as you can tell, the third place team, which is the second place team for now, is the Devils. They're playing the fifth place team today, which is the Warriors. The Warriors are in a must win, or if they tie, they're still okay. But of course, we're playing on Friday night. We win and we're in. If the Warriors lose today, obviously that sets up the Chargers to be 100%. If they win, they would be in the playoffs on Friday night. So check that out later on today at 5 o'clock on ESPN3 or the Highlight League Network on YouTube. Then, of course, we're going to get into some news before we bring in the full course meal with our guest today. So we just understand today, we just breaking news today that the illustrious former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, who is running for the New York City mayor in a crowded field, no matching funds for him. This happened this morning. I think they're saying there's a snafu. So they're with some kind of clerical error or something. But right here it says Cuomo mayoral funds denied millions. So that's interesting because the current mayor of New York City also can't have matching funds, and that's because of the entire corruption scandal that he's embroiled himself in. Whether his case got dismissed or not, he's clearly still embroiled in it. And the mayor right now of New York City is in the Dominican Republic, and we don't know who's paying for that. This seems to be another taxpayer-funded trip. I mean, here's another propaganda. What can I say? This guy is just, between him and Kaz Daughtry, who right now, let's be clear, Kaz Daughtry has been running New York City while Eric Adams is away. Randy Mastro is just a hatchet man. He has been for a while. Remember, Bridgegate with Governor Christie at the time in New Jersey, it is Mastro that was his right-hand man with that. So the real mayor of the city right now is Kaz Daughtry, which should scare the hell out of a lot of people. But this guy, Eric Adams, is running around Dominican Republic, wasting more money. I don't know why he's even there. You're the mayor. You could have sent someone from your staff to go over there, but no, he had to go there himself. And I don't know, is he partying? Because that's all this guy likes to do in reality. You know, he just thinks life is a game. It's all about making money. It's wild, man, what this guy's doing. But there's even more news, because what you found out yesterday in a headline from the Daily News is one tough cop, Bo Dietl, former NYPD detective, has his own podcast. We heard on the last show I played what he said about this whole migrant shelter contract. And here, Daily News reveals Bo Dietl interviewed by feds amid probe into ex-Adams advisor Tim Pearson. So there's a lot in this article about the migrant shelters and the contracts for the security. We heard in the last previous episode about him discussing this with Curtis Lewa, and how when Bo basically was telling Eric Adams a few months ago about these migrant shelter contracts for security, he basically said something about, in reference to Eric Adams, that's a kickback. And Eric got up, and that was the last time Bo Dietl ever spoke to him. So it's pretty bizarre, this whole scenario. Hey, right there, look at that. It says, I don't know if you can make that a little bigger. I says, this is Bo Dietl. I says, you know what, Mr. Mayor, your people, and you know who they are, came to me and wanted me to bid on contracts 3 times the going rate, Dietl said, while recounting the last time he spoke with Adams roughly 7 months ago. And this is even worse. The next thing, he looked at me. I don't know what you're talking about, Bo, he added. I said, Eric, you should know what I'm talking about. You're the mayor. He got up, walked away, and never spoke to him after that. So there's a shrouded cloud right around Eric Adams, Tim Pearson, all these goons that Eric had running underneath him in the city. And, the chickens have come home to roost. Whether you think his case was dropped by the feds, there's rumors right now about the state, and there's something brewing behind the scenes. And what you're seeing is these things that are all accumulating. Stay trained up. NYPD, Eric Adams, free Sal Greco and Marlon Bethel. Right on, brother. Thanks for that one. But that's kind of, what you're hearing about when it comes to Tim Pearson and the Eric Adams situation. Chronicles of the collapse. Adams wearing a mask like a simp. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the Dominican Republic, but I'm going to segue into the hot topic here, which is an expose done by Slingshot.News. And of course, the editor-in-chief, Troy Smith, who's our guest today and is going to discuss this. And we come to find out that there's a $10 million slush fund payout that is probably going to derail the entire DeSantis dynasty. And how do we know? Well, the wife, Casey, she's running for governor in Florida, as you know. And she's going to be running against Byron Donalds, who President Trump had endorsed and has endorsed. I actually know Byron's a good guy. And that's going to be the Republican primary, more than likely. But we are now hearing about the criminality surrounding Ron DeSantis. And I think a lot of people in New York, or California, and in many other states always say, well, Ron DeSantis is a great governor. And, he's a Republican and all this stuff. And he says the right things, but saying things and doing things are two different things. And here is the article I'm referring to. 10 million slush fund payout that will derail the DeSantis dynasty. So there's a whole scandal with this. And Troy Smith produces this article, and it's a whole expose. But so yesterday, before I have Troy on, someone in the media asks Ron DeSantis about this very article and this very question. So I was going to play this video for you to see how he is handling himself on a real tough question, because I think everybody's under this, euphoria about Ron DeSantis, when really he's starting to look and sound like the Italian version of Eric Adams as a governor. So let's play this video for you all.
I want to say one thing. So, when you're in this business, you get used to, a lot of baseless attacks. That just goes with the territory. But I do think it's really sad to see manufactured smears against the First Lady and the program that's Hope Florida. Hope Florida is actually an example of government succeeding in lifting people up. And how many examples do we have of that happening? Almost never. But the inside of Hope Florida didn't ask for any money for it for the legislature, didn't need any new policy, but just through the First Lady's initiative that we are going to reimagine the way we provide services to those in need. And so instead of the job of somebody working in these agencies to just try to get people on as many government programs as possible and keep them on indefinitely, we're transforming the role to be a hope navigator, where the job of government is to link those people in need to all the wonderful resources that we have throughout our Florida communities. So we've enlisted the faith-based community, we've enlisted charitable organizations, we've enlisted businesses, and we've enlisted individual volunteers who answer the call when somebody comes in need. The needs go into a care portal, and all of a sudden you have a single mom that doesn't have a place to stay. It's not the bureaucracy that's going to lift her up. It's the church that comes over or the charity that comes over to do that. And what are the results since this has been implemented? We've gotten 30,000 people off welfare and saved the state of Florida $100 million. And so that's a great success story. Now, that's a success story that threatens some people. That's a success story that's going to invite attacks because people have their own political agenda. And I got to tell you, I'm used to the baseless smears from liberal media. I'm used to the baseless smears from Democrats. I've been dealing with it for over 6 years. It's par for the course. But I think now we have Republican leadership in the Florida House joining with liberal media and joining with Democrats to launch baseless smears against Hope Florida and by extension, myself and the First Lady. Let me tell you something. None of these Republican leaders got elected on the platform that they were going to launch baseless attacks against the governor and First Lady. That is not why they got elected. Had they run on that, they would have lost their primaries. They would never have been elected in the first place. No, they were elected to continue our success in Florida, to build off the great achievements of the last 6 years. They were elected to cut property taxes, which they refused to do. They were elected to help alleviate and end the condo crisis, which the Florida House has refused to do. They were elected to continue our Florida First agenda. And what are they doing with their actions? Not only are they trying to sabotage that agenda, but they are stabbing the voters in the back.
Lot being said there by good old Ron. So on to discuss all of this and more with this entire expose is my buddy from Slingshot.News, the editor-in-chief himself, Troy Smith. Troy, welcome to the Sal Greco Show.
Sal, it's an honor. I've been watching the show since its inception here, and always a viewer. I always get the clips when you send them to me, and I also see it on your X feed. It's a tremendous show. It's a real honor to be here. And you're just you're a great example of why staying in the fight, even when you're kicked down, even when people come after you, why staying in the fight is important. Sal, you're an inspiration to so many people out there. Honored to join you.
Thank you, Troy. You know, like I always say, you can never give up, right? Think a good friend of ours says the same thing. So your expose, it got underneath his skin, with that one video, which you actually had posted on the Slingshot.News X account, which I think people should follow, because you seem to write things that are not, it's in the news, but not catching enough attention, So it's a good thing and people should follow. So what did you find when you started to look into this whole slush fund, this $10 million that was taken, whatever Ron DeSantis is doing, because it sounds a lot like someone else that I've been referring to, which I just referred to a few minutes ago on the show and stuff that he does.
No, and the Italian Eric Adams, I really like that. I think that can really stick. I'm serious. But this is a shocking corruption scandal, especially when you consider the subject matter, Sal. We're talking about a program that was supposedly for the lowest income people in Florida, the people who need help the most. And if you listen to Ron DeSantis yesterday or even this morning, he talked a lot about Hope Florida and how it's so important to these low income people. And I agree, it's very important to help low income people. And that's why it's even more shocking that Ron DeSantis and his wife appeared to have stolen $10 million through this Hope Florida organization. Now, I say that because we've conducted an investigation into this situation that's been raised by Florida legislator as well, Sal. And, it was recently revealed that Casey DeSantis' Hope Florida charity received a $10 million payout as part of a settlement with the state's largest Medicaid provider at the behest of Ron DeSantis' Agency for Healthcare Administration, otherwise known as the AHCA. Now, Sal, this money was moved into Hope Florida from the AHCA as part of a $67 million settlement between the AHCA and Medicaid provider Centene regarding alleged overpayments made to pharmacy benefit managers. So, Sal, this works like 57 million of the settlement of 67 total, 57 of it goes to the taxpayers. But for some reason, the AHCA compelled Centene to issue $10 million to Casey DeSantis' nonprofit. And what's even more damning, and I think the cherry on top, as we're going to get into, that was kind of the weird explanation that Ron DeSantis used for this. Records show that Hope Florida, Sal, after that $10 million was put in their pocket, gave $5 million in the form of a grant to the Florida Chamber's Secure Florida's Future, and also to an organization called Save Our Society from Drugs. That was also so $10 million accounted for, but two separate $5 million payments to organizations pushing Ron DeSantis' political agenda in 2024. So Ron DeSantis' administration orchestrates a $10 million payment as part of a settlement that's supposed to go to the people of Florida. He carves out $10 million for his wife, and his wife then disperses that money to groups supporting his political causes in 2024. It's cut and dry, Sal, and I think that's why the Florida legislature is now taking a deeper look into this.
Yeah, so reading this is very alarming. So I'm saying, what is the legislators? What are they doing? Are they bringing this up? Because obviously, I believe it goes through the state, right? This legislature have to have a hearing on this. I don't know if it's a committee. I don't know if you know the procedure with that, because obviously this is corruption and he's stealing from taxpayers, and I think he needs to be held accountable. If this is all true, which you have the documents of, he needs to be held accountable, him and his wife.
Well, Sal, I think back to, and I'd like you to kind of expand on that and compare and contrast here, because when I was reading this, I kept thinking back to you and Eric Adams and the straw donor scheme, and the idea that both of these individuals have kind of rigged the game of government to put taxpayer money in their pocket. And we haven't seen, with the DOJ, we saw them, and I want to get your thoughts on that as well. I know this is your show, but the fact that the DOJ is kind of seemingly taking the foot completely off the pedal on Eric Adams. I think if we're going to see real action on this, Sal, this is a multi-million-dollar fraud. It needs to be investigated by the people in Washington, D.C., but the Florida House is looking into this. House Speaker Daniel Perez of Miami-Dade said, so far it looks like as though everything he's seen that this could be illegal, the fact this money was pushed to the side. Also, Representative Alex Andrade of Pensacola, Florida, told the Miami Herald that he's still pretty unclear about Hope Florida's mission, and they're conducting an investigation because they don't really know what's going on. There's another aspect of this that I want to cover because it's very important. Hope Florida is a 501c3, Sal, so they get tax-exempt status, and they get that through a process in which they basically declare themselves to be for the public good. Well, I've just outlined here, and many other people, Laura Loomer included, have outlined that this charity is not operating for the public good. It's operating to advance the political interest of Ron DeSantis. So I believe it's grounds that this Hope Florida charity should lose its 501c3 status. That goes through Washington, D.C. and the Trump administration. It's my understanding that there's a lot of powerful people taking a look at this scam right now. But just the fact that the House hasn't been able to, the Florida House has not been able to obtain regular documentation, regular scheduled filed documentation from Hope, Florida. They haven't been able to receive the tax information on what kind of contributions they've received or anything like that. There seems to be really no accounting and no accountability as it pertains to Hope, Florida. That's why the Florida House is asking more questions, and Ron is getting really angry about that, obviously.
Yeah, I see QCB says, I smell a bribe and embezzlement scheme. Stay trained up. Sounds like some form of money laundering going on. Yeah, yuck. Mike McMurphy, will DeSantis give a Checkers speech like Nixon did for you? Riri's Checkers was his dog's name. Yeah, look, there's a lot. See, people have been under this misinterpretation of Ron DeSantis that he's some kind of savior because, during the entire COVID thing that he's free Florida, and you still have people that like this. I'm not saying the guy's totally bad as far as the governor goes, but he has a lot of things that this sounds like he's in the Eric Adams mold of a politician here. He's embezzling money. He's moving it around. And the backdrop to this is that his wife is running for governor. So I don't know if you know about that, Troy. Is there any correlation between her future or her campaign right now, which essentially, Troy, she's been running a campaign for a couple of years since Ron was reelected.
Oh, absolutely, Sal. You're 100% right. And you know Florida well, probably maybe even better than I do. But Casey DeSantis has been running that shadow campaign for a long time. It was announced this morning that DeSantis is going to deploy 28 liaisons at all state colleges for Hope, Florida. I think we have to look at this in conjunction with the other moves that he's making to put members of his administration in powerful places around the state that are going to assist his wife in the coming election. I think there's been an effort to lay groundwork here with Hope, Florida, and there's even an effort by the DeSantis group right now, the administration, to make Hope, Florida law, which is really kind of an interesting thing. I've talked to some investigators about that. Some of them tell me that it very well could be a cover-up operation. You see, if they're able to transfer Hope, Florida into some kind of government program, there may be an opportunity to destroy records and to kind of end the paper trail on the corruption that we've outlined here. I think it's important that the Florida legislators stop that, make sure that that does not happen, and continue to investigate Hope, Florida for what we believe to be a complete, pay-to-play scheme. This is reminiscent of the Clinton Foundation, Sal. It's unbelievable that's been allowed to go on right under our noses here.
Yeah, and also he also has the racket, the insurance rackets. As you know, insurance rates are through the roof here in Florida. What used to be many moons ago the cheapest insurance for a car probably in the nation is now one of the highest. God forbid you have hurricane damage or any kind of damage to your house, you're not going to be able to afford a new roof. It's, these are things that in the underbelly of the Ron DeSantis administration, people know about this, Troy, but not too many people want to talk about it. They want to act like he's the heir apparent to President Trump, and I don't see that. And his wife running, who now we now know for sure Byron Donalds is going to be running for governor. I think would be a no-brainer who Florida should choose to be the governor. But what you're spelling out here is very alarming. And I don't want people to say, well, he's a Republican, because I look at it as one big party, one big, scam that they're all running, and they don't really care what part of, what aisle they fall under. They all do the same things, because this is very disturbing to hear that this guy at a 501c3 who we, found out about the Attorney General in New York State with Tish James, she was actually getting donations for a campaign through 501c3, which is illegal also. So you're starting, I'm seeing patterns with all these people, and it's the same things over and over again. So, I mean, what do you see happening here as far as is anybody in the DOJ going to look at this? Because I know state legislators have to do an investigation. They gather the evidence, and then where's Congress? Where's the congressional representatives of Florida? Where's the state senators in Florida? And then where is the DOJ on this?
Well, it's my understanding that there are some people taking a look at this. I don't have anything concrete for you, Sal, but I will say that this is a fairly new issue that's being brought up. We just released this report a few days ago, and DeSantis has been hitting the ground running, trying to get out ahead of this. This morning, he had a press conference with several people who had benefited from Hope Florida, in an attempt to kind of whitewash what's going on. They want to get that out of the news cycle. I think that eventually what's going to happen here is you're going to see movement from the DOJ. You're going to see movement from Congress, but it's going to take people that are concerned to raise this issue. Now, in his press conference today, Sal, Ron DeSantis has trashed those of us looking into this corruption scandal as leftists. And I point out to our fellow Republicans out in the state of Florida who may think, oh, this is a Republican governor. He's done a great job. We don't want to, attack him or anything. This is not about attacking anybody. This is about holding politicians accountable. When President Trump entered the race in 2015 for president for the first time, Sal, he spoke for the common man in a way that no politician had in maybe the history of the United States of America. And that common man approach is what we need to bring to Washington, D.C. It's what we need to bring to political offices around the country. What we've outlined here is that Ron DeSantis plays the part of the common man, but really under the table, he's running schemes reminiscent of the Clinton Foundation, reminiscent of your pal, Eric Adams, there in New York. And I like you. Could you just talk about that for a second, the comparison between these two? The fact that they're scamming the taxpayers out of money and seemingly getting away with it, it's just going to encourage other people to do the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. The thing is I think Eric Adams' hands are further in the coffers than even Ron DeSantis. The reason being New York City has a lot of different ways out between the real estate rackets, law enforcement. He's using law enforcement as his private security, run around and, hide things. It's one scandal after the other with this guy. There's contracts regarding everything. And Eric has been running wild. And it's so wild that I even showed you just a glimpse today. Bo Dietl was, had to go to the feds and explain this whole migrant shelter security contract. So and I remember Ron DeSantis tried to jump on that, sending illegal immigrants to New York City like he was some kind of virtue signal, trying to hide the fact that he's doing things like this. I think this is really alarming, Troy. Ron DeSantis should be investigated for this. And if his wife thinks she could run for governor, she needs to be investigated for this also, because taking this money, which is taxpayer money, and doing all this, and then he's basically saying, don't question me, I'm so great. That's reminiscent of people in the New York City Police Department that say, Officer Joe or whatever, Supervisor Joe is a good guy, but don't mind that he's hanging out with shady people and he's doing illegal things and he's misusing, he's misrepresenting himself to people and that he's using his power for personal gain. No, well, he let me off one day from work, so he's a good guy. Or I came in 5 minutes late. He didn't say anything. He's a good guy. That's the scam of these people. So when you hear that, when he says he's calling you a leftist because you have your finger pointed at him, no, we have evidence that leads to something is running afoul here, and everything that we think is, bringing in as evidence should be looked at. I mean, yeah, here's an article. Two on-duty NYPD cops groped robbed hooker after 311 calls to infamous marketer sweethearts. Prosecutors. I'm sure these cops were great guys, but meanwhile, look what they're doing. So sometimes they try to pull this wool over your eyes, saying they're so great. I'm a good cop, and meanwhile they're running around doing crazy things. And I'd say primarily it's usually supervisors, chiefs, commissioners. They're the kind of people, not regular cops, because they need their position. They need to do corrupt things. And the only way to get away with it is by saying, they let the people underneath them get away with whatever they're doing so no one says anything. And I think Ron does a lot of that because they have so many people that are just closing a blind eye to what's going on in the state. I mean, Troy, I was in Wynwood, Miami this weekend, Troy. It's reminiscent of New York City. Probably might be even a little worse with all these homeless people. And not even homeless, Troy. There's drug paraphernalia right out in front of them. And for a second, I thought, am I in Hollywood or Hollywood, California, and not Wynwood, Miami? So, it's always kind of been like that over there. But really, Ron, you need to get your act together. But hey, when he's too busy stealing, maybe, that might be not on his agenda. So The next thing I wanted to talk about here, and I do think that needs to be investigated by the DOJ. You had a whole expose on Chuck Schumer, and that's relative to New York. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit about that one.
Absolutely. Well, Sal, I was introduced, and actually, we're going to have him back on my show, Slingshot TV, and where you've been a guest, and we'll hopefully have you back real soon. We talked to a man named Richard Lawless, who is an author who was invested heavily in Puerto Rico municipal bonds, and through one of the biggest financial scandals we've ever seen. He was able to obtain through FOIA requests and others after his investment tanked due to fraudulent bonds being issued by the SEC. He was able to obtain communications between the SEC and members of the government regulation offices and things, admitting that the bonds being issued for Puerto Rico's municipal power services, their sewage, all this kind of stuff, were absolutely fraudulent, and these officials knew they were issuing fraudulent bonds when they did it. Now, Sal, these power outages that have resulted in these bonds crashing because they were completely fraudulent, they've resulted in over 1,400 Puerto Ricans dying. The total amount of money is somewhere in the range of $130 billion. And here's the kicker. The banks issuing the banks working in conjunction with the SEC to issue these bonds at the same exact time were receiving preferential treatment from Congress, from legislation in Congress passed by Chuck Schumer, while they were giving tremendous campaign donations to Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, and other members of the Democratic Senate. This is a scandal that hasn't gotten the attention it really deserves, but I think we both know why. It's because it implicates all the right people.
Yeah, it seems to be, and it's always the same circle, right? It's always the same circle of people. So Chuck Schumer, who's the head Senate, he's the Senate minority leader, and this is from your article. The senator was also Bernie Madoff's biggest protector until the DOJ froze his assets, and Mr. Madoff could no longer pay the senator for his protection. With no money to share with the powerful senator, Mr. Madoff was indicted within weeks. So, I mean, look, Troy, it's like I'm telling you, it's the same circle of people. And you circle Chuck Schumer. He's been there for forever, and he's basically the head politician, I'd say, in the state of New York as the minority leader. So he was the majority leader just a year ago. Why are they investigating this guy already? He's been there or if he's not going to investigate it, Troy, why does he just step down? He's so corrupt. What is he still doing there?
Well, here's the thing, Sal. I think to answer that question, you got to look at the House of Representatives and what Nancy Pelosi has done. Now, you and I both know that Nancy Pelosi is still in charge of the House of Representatives, especially on the Democrat side, but she uses Hakeem Jeffries as kind of a puppet to say whatever she would like to say. And I think that's exactly what's happening with Chuck Schumer. I think he's walking a fine line there in New York because he's facing a possible challenge in the Democrat Senate primary from AOC. And while that challenge, there's speculation, would that be a legitimate challenge? Would it not be? The point is, it would be a challenge. It would have some effect on him. And I think he sees his writing on the wall. I think the Democrat Party has gotten to a place where you cannot be a white man and be in charge. You can't be a white woman and be in charge. You have to have minorities. And it's interesting, Sal, because instead of actually promoting, capable, smart individuals of color to these positions, they promote people who simply act as mouthpieces. And this is exactly why they manufactured that speech with Cory Booker just weeks ago. They want to put Cory Booker into Chuck Schumer's place. And just like Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer will work Cory Booker like a puppet and control the Senate and the Democrat side for years to come. I think this is a coordinated effort, and it kind of scares me, honestly, because I think what's coming for the presidency, I think there's a lot of candidates around that could serve as a mouthpiece for the Democrats. One in particular is Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who I think is going to be very much in the mix in 2028. There's going to be a lot of people up there, but their strategy is pivoted, Sal. They're no longer going for the guy out in front like the Barack Obama They go for the man behind the man. And I would be very careful about what Senator Schumer is planning there in the Senate with Cory Booker.
Yeah, here we go. Chronicles of the collapse. All of these decrepit old crook politicians need to get the F out. Look, that's the sentiment here, And there's also another thing, I want to cover with you. You brought up in the Slingshot.news about immigration. So you covered the judge, and I think Trump used the Aliens Act, that act to try to what he's doing now, but yet a judge tried to shut him down, and now he got shut down by the Supreme Court. So I don't like how a judge has immunity to say, well, you know what, we're going to put a nationwide injunction. I'm just a circuit judge. I'm clearly being an activist and not interpreting the law, but we're going to subvert your immigration policies and the executive branch by me overstepping the judicial one because I'm an unelected bureaucratic judge. What are your thoughts on all of that? Because I know you did write a piece about that.
Well, the language is pretty simple. I mean, it's a very clear-cut law that says that the president has the ability to deport people if he believes that they're a danger to the country, and that's the basic interpretation of it. But Sal, I've gone in the last couple weeks to a completely different strategy. I think that President Trump is an out-of-the-box candidate. He's an out of the box individual. He's somebody who approaches things in a way that's unique. And he's the only president that I've ever seen that would have the ability to challenge the American Bar Association. Now, I think the problem here is not immigration law. It's not the practicing of deportations. It's not the enforcement of laws. The problem here are lawyers who spend all of their time and all of their money attacking President Trump, attacking the rule of law, attacking our country. The only way that we can take the power out of these people is to unempower the state bars across the country. You see, in any given state, you cannot become a judge, you cannot become a lawyer unless you get approval from the state bar. When Thomas Jefferson was a lawyer back in the days of our founding fathers, there was no state bar. There was no American Bar Association. So the founding fathers in today's America, Sal, would not be who they were. They would not be lawyers. They would not be scholars because they didn't abide by the rules of the system. If you're going to seriously stop Boasberg and all of these legal attacks, you attack the Bar Association. You delegitimize the Bar Association and make it so anybody can become a lawyer. Anybody can become a judge. And then their little elitist club is completely shattered. All the politicians, all the lawyers, all the judges get one kick right in the ass from President Donald J. Trump. And forever, the state of America is changed, reverted back to the way it used to be, where you didn't have to get a stamp of approval from some elitist at a college institution or to practice law, to do anything, really. We don't need their approval, and President Trump can be the man to sink lawfare for good. That's the strategy I would like to see. Let's not focus on one small battle here. Let's win the entire war.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is doing a superb job despite everything that's going on around him and all these activist judge decisions, which is hysterical. It's a constant thing with him. I only think that there's two black eyes. It's the DOJ yet again. The Epstein file thing was a disaster, and how he handled Eric Adams, which could still come back around and bite him in the rear end in midterms. But that's a story for another day with those two things. But I think overall the tariffs, I think he's doing a good job. What do you think?
Absolutely. President Trump is the most effective president in my lifetime. But that's not saying much because I have W. Bush and Obama to deal from. So, no, he's the most effective president in my lifetime. He's doing a fantastic job. I think their expectations are obviously high, but he's hitting pretty damn close to him. He's doing a fantastic job, and we all support him, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I voted for him. I'm not a sycophant, but of course I will support what he does. I like a lot of things he does. Obviously, there's two things I highlighted there that need a little bit of a correction course. But so there's two things I want to ask you on the way out. Tish James, the attorney General of New York State. A lot of news surrounding her. In fact, President Trump has reposted things from Sam Antor, who's been on this show. He's reposted things from Joe Gilbert. I believe this was another thing on RVM News that was up there about now she's got a residency in Virginia, which she's the Attorney General of New York State. She can't have this residency that she's living at. What are your thoughts on all that you heard about her? You heard about, again, I just say to the campaign finance violation she has. She has the illicit loans. She basically put down that she married her father to get mortgage money for mortgages. It's just one thing after the other with this woman. And, right here it says under the New York public officers, elected officials like James are required to file sworn annual statements with the New York State Commission on Ethics and Lobbying Government, disclosing all real estate holdings except personal residences that don't generate income, all sorts of income exceeding 1,000, all debts exceeding 10,000. These aren't optional formalities, but legal statements signed under perjury of law. I mean, what is your take on all this, Troy? I mean, we've covered the whole she's partying with, mob associates up in the Bronx and where human trafficking reports happen, and she's just standing there, and there's never no one's said a word about it, Troy.
No, I mean, the idea is she's hanging out with all the gang members there at your favorite restaurant that's been closed down. Sal. The fact that she is associating with all these people, the residency thing is a pretty cut and dry issue to me, at least. On your taxes, depending on what, say you have a Florida house and say you have a New York house, like President Trump would declare Florida as his main residency, because if he declared his main residency as New York, he'd pay a lot more in taxes. So it's just a very cut and dry issue. People have multiple houses in multiple states, and that's okay. The problem is when you start declaring houses that aren't your primary residence as your primary residence, and then serving in positions where that's illegal. And that's exactly what we have here. The New York Constitution is very, very specific about this. Section 4, Article 2, Executive Law, Section 60. Anybody out there can look it up. The Attorney General has to be a primary resident of the state of New York. It doesn't say to be elected. It doesn't say in her election, in the election. It says has to be primary resident of the state of New York, period. And based on the information that's been revealed by the Gateway pundit, Joel Gilbert, and others, Sal, you've done your due diligence on this as well. She's not a primary resident of the state of New York. So not only should any Republican in the state of New York be going after her for this because she is an illegitimate attorney general, but on top of it here, all the things that she's done as attorney general may well be null and void since the time she's declared this as her primary residence, which I believe is 2022, although it could be 2023. So this is an issue that dates back many years, Sal, and I think it's going to come back to bite Letitia. You see, she tried to frame President Trump for literally nothing. Meanwhile, she's committing crimes, and if you or I had multiple primary residences on our taxes, we'd be under audit, we'd be investigated, hell, we might even be indicted. Why is Letitia James any different? Let's see accountability for this.
Yeah, I want to be, I think it'd be a nice vision to see her in a padded cell, and next to that cell, well, I guess they can't put females and males together, but maybe Ron DeSantis' wife would join her in the cell as Ron sits in a cell across in another department. Troy, yeah, look at that. New York State Attorney General Letitia James looking at possible insider trading around Trump's tariffs pause. I mean, this woman, she needs to worry about herself because her investigation is something, some indictment, something's got to be down the pike with her. There's too many things one after the other. But Troy, you're a resident of Florida. What's your favorite pizza out here?
Sal, I hate to disparage Florida, but that's been one thing that's been really tough. I'm in Melbourne, so it's not a big area, but favorite pizza. There's a place around the corner called Paisanos. I like that. Play quite a bit. Shout out to them. They make a damn good pizza. But Sal, lately I've been trying to lose a little weight.
Okay.
I've lost about 20 pounds, so I haven't been doing the pizza recently. Don't tempt me because I'll be there this afternoon.
Yeah, well, You got to learn. You got to do the hashtag imagine eating this good. I was at Joe's Pizza in Wynwood. You had to go to Joe's. If you're in, downtown Miami and you go to a baseball game, when you leave and you're saying, where can I go for a quick slice? It has Sicilians. There's one of the few places that has the actual Sicilian. And it's Joe's Pizza, the Joe's from Greenwich Village in New York City. So that's the thing. So I went there. It's up on the list to go if you're in Florida, but I always ask where you go for your pizza because, we all are good, food aficionados. Troy, where can people find you on the internet and where can they reach you on the website?
Well, if you go to your web browser, you can just type in slingshot.news, and on any given social media platform, you can just type in Slingshot News. On X, we have the gold check mark at News Slingshot. On Facebook, we got the verified badge, all that stuff. So any platform, really, you just look up Slingshot News, and you will find us. There's
your website, Troy. Troy, it's always good to talk to you. I like coming on your show as well. We kind of started a little bit on this Tish James thing, and now it's really ballooned into something that's quite disturbing. And she's still sitting there going, Trump this, Trump that, when she should be going, my real estate findings. Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Troy, exactly. Thanks for coming on. Keep up the good work. Anything else you could scrum up on Ron DeSantis, please let us know, and I'll have you back on right away.
God bless you, Sal. Thank you so much. I just want to say real quickly, thank you to the brilliant, elegant Laura Loomer for exposing so much on Ron DeSantis, and also Roger Stone. I mean, we got our mutual friend here, Sal. Roger is the best in the business. He's the best there's ever been. He's been on this since even before Laura, even before anybody. Roger, I believe, is the best political strategist, the best political mind maybe in the history of our country, a genius who I'm honored to work with. So thank you to Roger, and thank you, Sal, for having me on. God bless you.
Thank you, Troy. It's an honor to have you on, like I said, and come back when I'm sure there'll be more dug up on this whole situation. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely, Sal. Peace.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. The Ron DeSantis situation is alarming, because we seem to find this a lot in politicians these days. And I'm not one to disparage whether you're Republican or Democrat or an independent, but usually an independent is trying to do the right thing unless it's a grift to try to run a campaign or so and try to do something with it. Eric Dim chiming in here. Great show, Sal. Thank you, Eric Dim, as you know, of the Finest Unfiltered podcast. By the way, Eric was on Greg Kelly's show. I believe it was on Thursday, so it should have been last Thursday. You should check it out. Go on the WABC app and check that part out. Eric was excellent on there. And I feel that once my name was mentioned, Greg tried to rush them off the air. I don't know what that's about. Maybe because, I mentioned how he likes Greg seems to like Jessica Tish because his father is advising her. And as much as I respect and I love the time Ray Kelly was a police commissioner, I do point out that New York City is still paying for lawsuits from that era. So as great as he is, you need to also hold him accountable. And I don't think we should be listening to voices of the past, but moving forward. But Jessica Tish, in my opinion, is a horrible police commissioner. So Rob Lukash, as you know, he's also chiming in. He'll be here 5:05 Eastern or 17:05 Eastern tomorrow on the Finest Unfiltered Network. Great show, important information. Thank you, Rob. We were on a X Space together just the other day. We had a lot of listeners in there, and it was an organic thing. We just did it. It was a pop-up space from the morning. We announced it, and it was quite a crowd in there. I'd say anytime you're in a room and people aren't, how can I say this, financially boosting up the fact that you have listeners in there. We had over 100 people in a room at one time, which on X is pretty good. That's very good for never doing it before. We haven't done a space in months. And that was a pretty big gathering in there. You could also check that out on X. It was on John Macari's page. You could go back and look at it. We had a space, and it was pretty good. We had a lot of speakers. People came up, asked questions, like a town hall. And I really appreciate everyone that was in there. And Rob and Ron were on, and it was great. It was a great space, so you could check that out, obviously. And, of course, tomorrow at 8:05 live, Finest Unfiltered. John and Eric, I believe they're going to be interviewing Paperboy Prince, who's a mayoral candidate and probably has the greatest commercial for mayoral candidate ever. You just got to see this. I don't know if they're allowed to play it. They played it on their show. It could be copyright. It's hysterical though. It's an all-time classic. So you should check that out. And also tomorrow, Finance Unfiltered at 17:05, 5:05 Eastern. And of course, thank you guys for being in the comment section. There it is. Paperboy Prince will be on tomorrow, 8:05 live. Don't sleep on this guy. He's actually very smart. So he knows his stuff, just so you know. It's a little bit of a gag, a gig. He's poking fun at people, and it's funny, but he knows what he's talking about. So I always like to end things on a high note here. As bad as we could hear about this James and Ron DeSantis and these politicians that need to be held accountable. I'm sorry. If you're going to try to say cops should be suspended or modified or arrested if, God forbid, they do anything wrong, then a politician who's acting like a thug or a criminal needs to be held accountable too. That's how I see it. And I think they're the worst kind because they use all their power and abuse it, whereas the common folk can't even spit on a sidewalk without going to prison for that or getting a ticket. So that's how I see things. I like parity. But, I love baseball. And I said I was going to mention this at the end of the show. But last night, of course, I'm a Met fan. And I know there's a lot of Yankee fans, but I've been a Met fan my whole life. So last night, the Mets are playing the Twins. It is awfully cold. And there's Steve Jelbs right there. Look at this. He's wearing a Vikings helmet and a football jersey. And his hands, he's wearing gloves. He's wearing hand warmers. He's actually has the uniform hand warmers for the football team. And it's that cold at the stadium. It's so cold. And so there's Juan Soto wearing a hoodie underneath his jersey. It's brutally cold in Minnesota. But the Mets did come up with another W. And Juan Soto hit a towering shot for a home run. A guy who's earning the big bucks. I mean, here it is. Here's the home run he hit last night. Let's play this for all the Met fans. There it is. A high fly ball into right center field. Oh, bang. It's in that second deck. See, he's worth all that money. Trust me. This guy's a game changer in the lineup. And there he is running with the hoodie on. It's that cold. Brutally cold. But we win. And if you see the standings, the Mets are in first place. And deservedly so. Because we are, I guess, the most expensive team in the league. There they are at 11-5. We're already 2 games up. I know it's early, but you got to win series and you got to win games. That's how baseball works. And then in third place, not too far behind, is the Miami Marlins. So the Miami Marlins, as you know, I went to Italian Heritage Night on Friday night. They played the Nationals. I was there for Italian Heritage Night. And I was also there on Saturday with the national game, which was Venezuelan Heritage Day. And I'm a big proponent of Lone Depot Park. So I wanted to end the show on a high note. I took a video, a little tour of the game and everything that was going on there for the show. I did a little production. So everybody who hasn't been there or maybe was there a long time ago or loves to go there, I'm going to feature Lone Depot Park. The Marlins are a nice organization. It's a nice area. So I want to end it on a high note. So thank you all for watching. I'll be back on Thursday again at 1:05 p.m. or 13:05. Again tomorrow, 8:05 in the morning. Check out the Finest Unfiltered Paperboy Prince. This is going to be something. It's either going to be you're going to be really informed and hopefully you get a chuckle because he's got personality and he's also serious. And also tomorrow, 17:05, 5:05 Eastern, live on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel and here on X streaming live and on many other platforms. The Executive Perspective with Rob Lukash and Ron Layson. I hope you guys check it out. So that's it here from the Sal Greco Show. And now I'm going to show you my time at the beautiful Lone Depot Park, which I highly recommend you all at least go once to check out the game. See you all on Thursday. I hope everybody has a good afternoon. And I'm signing off from Florida, which is a sunny place for shady people. The roof's open tonight. So we're here at Lone Depot Park, and it's Italian Heritage Night. We're gonna give you a little look around the stadium and show you how everything is around here and why I like coming here. And I always tell everyone that this is a good place to come if you want to relax for a couple hours and forget about the, I guess, inequities of the world right now. It's always a fun time going up the escalator doing this. It's a special night because it's Italian Heritage Night in Miami. That's the door here. I always like doing it. There you go. Welcome to Lone Depot Park. Not only did we come to the game here, but I got my hat. As you can tell, I got my Italian Heritage hat, but the roof is open tonight, so this is beautiful. I tell you, it's a good environment here, very good environment, especially on Italian Heritage Night. This is where it's at, in the parking garage. This view's Lone Depot Park is spectacular when the roof is open. The stadium is unbelievable. When the roof is open, you can't ask for anything better. And I've been telling you. And it's a special night because it's Italian Heritage Night. You even have lattes over here. Very good. Usually they have Capacito. Obviously tonight we're switching it up. It's Italian Heritage Night. But come here, I believe it's during the fifth inning, and it's Capacito time in the 305.
Repeat that question.
These are my favorite seats in the house. Where really nobody can sit next to you. So fantastic. And I might be the only Italian in the ballpark tonight. It still is Italian Heritage Night. This is unbelievable views. And by the way, this is my favorite spot in the whole ballpark because no one else can sit next to me. So I also like to state that I might be the only Italian in the ballpark tonight, but it is Italian Heritage Night at Lone Depot Park. Great views.
Mamita, the one that started off this race and it takes off.
I think there's only 2 Italians here. Greetings from Miami, right out the door. As you can see here, and once again, there's the bobbleheads, bobbleheads. Maybe one day I'll be a bobblehead on there. Italian Heritage Night, where one of 2 Italians in the Walmart, the entire Walmart. Didn't go as planned. Orleans ended up losing, even though they were up by 4 runs. The Nationals won. Better luck next time. It's growing pains around here. To be continued, but still, this is a nice place to come to. It's a beautiful evening in Miami, and I'll be back at Long Depot Park.
So, this is a biblical moment. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?